Hey, what's up, guys, and welcome to episode 29 of Talk4, the quickfire podcast where we ask four great questions to unique and interesting people. Behind the mic today is your host, Skupien, that's me, and our special guest for today, Victor Estima, who's going to be answering our questions today. Victor, please say hi, introduce yourself, and give us a quick rundown of who you are and what you do before I shoot some questions.
Hello there, everyone. My name is Victor Estima. I'm a fourth degree black belt. Been a competitor for many years, competed worldwide. But today I work as a regional leader for Gracie in the European continent. I believe I'm a facilitator of people for professional jiu-jitsu to achieve their dreams of jiu-jitsu. I feel like that's my mission, and I do that through different sources we can chat more about. That's a little bit about me.
Brilliant. That's absolutely fantastic. And yeah, no, I've followed you for a while, and I've obviously watched all your clips and everything from your fights, and you're a fantastic athlete, and you came highly recommended by Professor Rich Weatherall from Gracie Street, where I train as well. So I'm really, really excited to ask a few questions to you. So if you're ready to go, should we crack on with question number one?
Yeah, let's go. Let's go. I'm excited.
Fire it up. Right. So for question one, tell me a bit about your backstory. How did you begin your jiu-jitsu journey, and how did that lead to all the incredible achievements you've accomplished so far?
Luis, so basically with me, I always had a connection with sports growing up in Brazil. I was born in Recife, northeast of Brazil. Always been somebody who played outside a lot, and my first experience with sports began with football. But right there in the beginning with martial arts, I started judo when I was about 6 years old.
Mm.
With the beginning of the journey, like just for bullying, I was being bullied at school, so my dad did judo in the past, so he put me into judo.
Mm.
Straight away after judo, my I could say my sensei, he passed from an accident. So there was a sad story on that
Oh
one.
wow.
He was a motorbike accident, so I never really, after his pass, I never really got back into judo,
Mm.
carrying on football. But then jiu-jitsu became a thing when my brother was already training, competing in his teenage years. My brother Braulio Estima, he's 4 years and a half older than me. So at that difference, he was always a little bit ahead and experienced things. We tried again judo for a little while until somebody connected my brother to jiu-jitsu. And at that time it was really strange because I've watched some of the UFC, the tapes, the VHS tapes, and I
Yeah.
was, oh my God, this is so amazing. I used to be dreaming about the idea. I used to love the martial arts movies with Van Damme, and I used to be trying to practice the moves at home. So I always was engaged with martial arts. But that was the moment from when I realized that jiu-jitsu that I was going to, my brother was training, it was the same from the UFC that I watched as a younger kid. And it
Mm.
was a little bit of a confusion because jiu-jitsu was not as developed as most people think at that time. So in the early 90s, it was just like this lack of understanding what jiu-jitsu truly was in my state in Brazil, Recife. Everything was based in Rio de Janeiro, where
Mm.
the Gracie family was based. So then, with that in mind, my brother began. He started his journey in jiu-jitsu. He started competing locally and doing really well. But I was not interested in it. I just left it alone. I thought that was a thing that my brother wanted to do, and sometimes my parents kept me doing the things my brother did, and I felt a little bit resistant to that. I wanted to break away from the comparisons I had with my brother.
Gotcha.
And so then with that, and that was funny because then I got into music. And then from going to music, playing guitars and everything, I was a
Awesome.
little bit sedentary at my teenage years, just playing a lot of hours and just hanging out and not doing much activities. And that was a critical time for a teenager to develop their coordination, strength, and confidence. So, and then my dad and my brother, they all came to me and talking to, maybe Victor, you should try a sport, maybe do something else. Could do anything. Could be jiu-jitsu, whatever you want. Doesn't need to be what your brother does. Okay. I listened to the feedback and I thought it's valid. So why not? Tried volleyball, tried handball, tried football again, enjoyed nothing. And then there was lack of options. So then I thought, okay, no, maybe I give it a try jiu-jitsu again. I tried jiu-jitsu again. At that time, my brother was already a Pan American champion. He won his first international title at the blue belt division. And then kind of I gave me a little bit of a taste in my mouth that maybe my brother did it, I can do it too.
Mm.
So off I went, began my journey in jiu-jitsu, and I started competing very early in my journey in jiu-jitsu, and from there on it continued. Like I started to really train twice a day, every day for many years. So it kind of began my story as this start. But of course, maybe that is a link as well that to my journey to the United Kingdom, because a lot of you know I lived in the UK for 18 years. That's where I did all my professional competition career there, and I taught for many years in multiple schools. I was the third instructor of Jiu-Jitsu arriving in the UK in 2000.
Wow.
This when everything was beginning, like there was barely anybody training, just a few blue belts, a couple of blue belts, and most of them are just passionate about jiu-jitsu people that would travel to train with us. And that was basically Roger in London, Braulio in Birmingham, and I was together with Braulio. But I was a color belt, I was a purple belt, but I was instructing already.
Mm.
But that journey from beginning jiu-jitsu and kind of getting to the UK, it was only 4 years. Very short journey at that time, but very important because I established myself as a competitor at that time. I was, and then what most people don't realize is that in Recife is 2.5 to 3 hours by plane to Rio de Janeiro, that where most of the major tournaments were. So people from my state would not come from a lot of money, and it was very hard. So there was a matter of beginning saving the money from my lunch school. Now this my school lunch money that we have to get like a little bit of a few pennies every day. So I would not eat at lunch in a school, and then I would save that money to be able to enter one tournament a year. And I put all my coins in the World Championships. I put myself into a high stake there. I had some local tournaments, but they didn't really have a competitive. It was not very competitive to my division. There was not many people training jiu-jitsu in my state, so very early stages. So all the challenges were in the Rio de Janeiro. So it was like a whole year saving for one tournament, and it kind of was really weird, but it meant the world to me. Meant the world going to experience that, and it almost like because there was so little the experiences in Rio de Janeiro, it was like I could taste, I could smell everything. Until today, it marked my life, the first experiences. I got motivated, I got inspired, and and it motivated many years of my career, that experience.
That is absolutely beautiful. So, I mean that's a true story of a champion, really, isn't it? You've gone from budgeting on lunch money to world champion, and now look where you are now. That's something really special, isn't it? And what a journey! It's just lovely to see someone who's come from real humble beginnings, obviously worked so hard to get your way up the ladder and get to where you are. And no, credit to you. You've done a fantastic job, and you're an exceptional athlete. And I wanted to ask as well. So that's okay. It was Nottingham, I think. Was it where you were based in the UK for most of the time?
Yeah, like a majority of my time, it was the Nottingham city where I established. But first, I arrived in Birmingham. I spent 5 years in Birmingham.
Okay,
I
nice.
was while Braulio was in his prime competing in the major tournaments, I was the head instructor for his school. So
Mm,
I could keep things together for the first 5 years, which is the beginning of Gracie Barra Birmingham, where Gracie Barra Birmingham became established school.
yeah.
Uh, and from that period, I gained a lot of experience teaching every day. Been showing up on the mats. I would be doing like probably about 8 to 10 hours a day on the mats.
Jeez.
And it was consistent. And I don't think I had days off at that time. Saturday, it was a half day off. I would finish classes around 2, 3 o'clock, and maybe I'll go to the cinema once in a while. It would be my fun time.
Wow.
And I
Yeah.
remember that it came from a really big drive, Luis. And coming from Brazil, an immigrant in the United Kingdom, not knowing how things really work, away from home, missing everyone. I didn't come from families that don't care. I came from a very loving family,
Mm,
and to do all this in pro of my future and the future of my future family. I was trying to change my life, and this is quite of a often you see when people travel and they are immigrants into different countries. It become this is very, very, very deep motivation to become an established person. And all the hurdles that we face makes us want even more. So I put a lot of energy. I made jiu-jitsu my university. I had to make a decision. I made the task to go to uni to do physiotherapy in Brazil. And I took a gap year to go to the UK to kind of see if I liked it or not.
Sure.
I wanted to learn English, spend some time, learn something, to go back to study again. And then I fell in love with the jiu-jitsu, the environment, and how people appreciated what I did. I never thought what I had values. So when I got to the UK, I felt valued, and that feeling was incredible. And I never felt like I was working. So, and so straight away I applied for my working visa, I got my working visa, and that became like the thing. Passing forward a few years, I got to a point I was already a black belt. I was already medaling at the World Championships, and I wanted to go in a journey to open my own school because at that time I had an instructor from my brother's school. Didn't want to do it before because I've always been the kind of person who wants to do things in cycles and make sure the cycles are done complete. So I felt like I needed to be a fully black belt before I go into the journey of open school. But I felt more because I didn't want to be, I felt like my source of knowledge was being close to my brother. And I was still forming as a competitor, forming as a black belt. When I felt like I was a black belt for a little while, I knew that my knowledge and my concepts understanding would take me further, and I would not need constant adjustment and experience training to be able to evolve.
Right.
And then I made the decision to go. And I didn't want to be anywhere near my brother because I didn't want him to cause any future rivalry. So we can be doing schools close or competing. Jiu-Jitsu was very small at that time. We felt like being in the same city was too small. 1.2 million people in the city. I felt like I needed to go to 1 hour 15 away to another city.
This town ain't big enough for the two of us.
It's not big enough for this. I know. But it's a mentality at that time because it was so rare jiu-jitsu that it kind of we didn't want to overlap this. So off I went to Nottingham after an opportunity for a partnership into a school. That was right about ADCC 2011. If you guys remember, 2011, the ADCC was in Nottingham, it's a city that I established my school. I already had a school at that time there. So that's how Nottingham became the place and the place where I spent most of my time. I had a school there for many years. From that school, we saw many champions, we saw many high-level competitors, but also we established a service to Jiu-Jitsu. Today, the city has 3 Gracie Barra schools. We have close to 1,000 students overall. We have great competitions happening over there. We also have many people living their lives through Jiu-Jitsu. From the year 1 to the year 10 to 12 years after I arrived in Nottingham, we were able to see 33 new Gracie Barra schools coming from as students that trained and prepared and learn from Gracie Barra Nottingham, which is, for me, it completes the cycle that how you begin a journey in Jiu-Jitsu is to find continuation. And if the people around you get stuck, never progress, something is wrong, something is off. And I always felt like this commitment to make sure Jiu-Jitsu remains where I stay, but not only remains by having a school that teaching, but the people who do learn Jiu-Jitsu in that school can create a future for themselves, and eventually they can do what I did in Nottingham in different places. And today I see what's going on. It makes me feel super, super proud and happy that all those years and energy and hours taught teaching Jiu-Jitsu every day, it would turn into something like this. And I would redo everything again if I had to, because it's truly made me feel fulfilled with my journey and truly made a difference in my life. It changed the way I see Jiu-Jitsu, changed the way I am as a person that I spend there.
I can imagine. Yeah, it's a fantastic journey. And yeah, it's interesting how you say, Jiu-Jitsu started so small, when you started getting into it, it's tiny, but it's grown so much recently. And it must be nice to see, not just in the Nottingham area, but the whole of the UK as well. It's grown so much in the schools. And we just have, I'm sure you're aware, West Wilts is opening their new school as well now. And I mean, it's just fantastic, isn't it, to see something that's grown in this
Yeah,
way, and especially, Gracie Barra is, it's
yeah,
a fantastic
because
thing.
no, Luis, we see the jiu-jitsu becoming a very an essential part of people's life, because the struggles, the training, the experiences, the inspirations, the daily routine of a school, and the regular people who go train every day after work, being having the environment to outlet the energy, to be inspired, to push yourself to become better than you were before. It's so like incredible
Yeah.
because it changed people's life. People become better for it. There's a lot of distractions around the world. People pulling you in different corners to do things not necessarily is good for you.
Mm.
And it's so nice to see that there is a bunch of people that are really pulling people to the right track and
Oh,
using it
absolutely.
as a tool, right, to help them to see better for their lives. And that's why I'm so committed to jiu-jitsu and committed to Gracie Barra, because I can see that the work that we're doing behind the scenes, it facilitates for people to follow their dreams, but
Yeah.
the dreams that are fulfilled because you have a dream to live from jiu-jitsu, but you do this by doing good things to people,
Mm.
being a force of change, positive change to the communities. The amount of kids and teenagers and seniors and adults and athletes and so many different types of people be able to get to a jiu-jitsu school
Mm.
and benefit from it. Because the reality in the past was not like that. Jiu-jitsu used to be for very few people.
Yeah.
Kind of people who just go into war every day in training.
Sure.
And it was not very welcoming because the culture was really focused on the ego of the athletes, and how far we came on to become this school that provides a service to the communities and really bring their selfless mentality by giving the service to people. We now serve, um, and it was not always like that. And so it's nice that we are going in the right track.
I couldn't agree more. And I actually had Professor Draculino on a couple of weeks ago as well, and he made a very good point about saying, how jiu-jitsu, you go to the dojo, and it really is the great equalizer of people, isn't it? It doesn't matter what gender you are, what color you are, what race you are. Everyone goes into that gym and then they've all got the same mindset that everyone wants to help, everyone wants to improve, everyone wants to see their friends improve, and it's like a little sanctuary, isn't it? These dojos all around the world where everyone can just come together and really be in the same mindset and mind frame towards it. So it's a fantastic community to be in, and I love what you said there because honestly, it's really helped me with my life as well recently. I've been doing it for I think since February now, so it's been a fair little bit of a journey so far, but I'm definitely not straying from the path anytime soon. And anyway, I just wanted to ask as well, how long have you actually been coaching now? Ballpark figure, how many years do you reckon?
Um, I think about 20 something years, I think.
Yeah,
Let's say since I was 19 years old. Yeah,
there you go.
around about that.
That's a long time. And so
Yeah.
for the second question, we're asking the expert here, but obviously you do a hell of a lot of teaching now, and with jiu-jitsu growing like it is, there's so many new white belts coming in now. And what would you say are the most important focus points to be working on in your first few months as a white belt? When you first go to the mats, what's the main things to focus on?
That's a great thing. Great question. What I can say for somebody who's starting jujitsu, it's like you started learning anything in the world. Everything when you get into a software program, you're going there for the first time, you have a tutorial, right? A
Mm,
step by step how to use the tools. And jujitsu is not different. It's a skill and it's a complex skill. So number one, you need to start with a good foundation. And by starting a good foundation, you need to really find a school that has that focus to be able to introduce jiu-jitsu as a whole. So you have the full picture of what jiu-jitsu can be.
mm,
And having a strong fundamental program, it's so important for you to develop correctly. When I say this, you might be in an environment where you start the fundamental program, um, but then you're racing, you're rushing to try to go to the next stage, or you're not having enough time on that program for you to go straight into the big picture, straight to the main sessions and the harder sessions. It kind of slow you down.
mm.
And so having trust to the learning process of your school is number one. Because today we have a excess of information. It's too much out there. And by having access of information, sometimes you can try to shortcuts, or sometimes you look into the wrong thing. You put your energy in the wrong type of movement or techniques.
Yeah.
And then sometimes you lose the focus to the good structure that your school is providing. I just say focus on the fundamental structure of your school, learn and trust on the experiences of your teachers,
Mm-hmm.
and then you just be consistent. And while you're doing this, sometimes it feels like you're never gonna improve. It feels like it's so difficult, it's so challenging. And I just can say one thing. Jiu-Jitsu is like movements, and those movements has patterns, and these patterns, they repeat itself in different stages. So it's not like you're learning in a very static way. You're learning progressively. You're the things that you learn in the initial parts of your game, you will be reused forever, and you just expand on that. And but the patterns and the movements, they repeat in different shapes, different angles, different techniques, different thought processes. So stick to the foundations, trust on your system. Do not quit when it gets hard. Guys, this is where it goes really bad. When it gets hard, people tend to quit. But being hard, it creates frustrations. Frustrations is what you need to overcome in order to improve. But if anything in the world, in any
So
skill
true.
you're trying to build, the frustrations is something is pointing as a direction. It's like having a frustration about something in your game. It's showing you what you need to improve. Frustrations are like a guideline. This frustrates me. I need to fix this. Rather than look, this is frustrating me and I can't fix this. I'm gonna change and do something else. This is a habit that can create in your life that it always makes you stop on the hurdle times. And then if you keep going like this in your life, you're gonna develop a mentality that quits when it's hard, and you also have to restart new things and start new things and restart. And it's gonna be always a slow process. Endure the hurdles, overcome the challenges, fix them. They're difficult for a reason, for you to fix, improve. And when you do improve and you fix those things, is rewarding, because nothing in this world that is worth it is easy.
So true.
It's always challenging. And that's what jiu-jitsu builds resilience. But if you look into the big picture and the people way far ahead from you, and you start comparing yourself to the other people that maybe they are learning much faster than I am, or he's so much stronger than I am. If you look into other people, you automatically will put yourself down. And then you lose the motivation, and you feel like it's impossible to you. But the journey is singular. It's your journey, your development, with your story. So don't forget that you live in your story. You're telling your story in the world of jiu-jitsu, not somebody else's. So believe that you can do it. And that's all you have to do.
I love that advice. So true. And yeah, it's funny how it all works because, I obviously have to white belt myself. Haven't got my first stripe yet. Been going a few months, and there's been so many sessions where you're just getting tapped out continuously, getting not quite getting the technique right. You haven't quite been able to implement something you wanted to do, but there's been sessions recently where it's clicked, and I've landed that move I've been trying to do, I've been working on, and there's things I've been thinking about, and then you try something new and you do something else, and it's so true. It's that adversity, it's the challenge, it's the reward for overcoming these things that really provides that amazing feeling you get when you're doing something in anything, and that's
Yeah, exactly.
business, that's other sports, jiu-jitsu, it wouldn't have the enticing and the enticement for turning up every day and working at it if it didn't have that adversity that that inspires you to keep going. And I tell you what, in anything, when you succeed or when you do something, when you nail something, that feeling is just exceptional, isn't it?
It's special. It is truly special. Until today, I feel the same. And then also, I feel like it talks about the mentality of balance, right? Like the yin yang mentality. We talk about balance, but we can really create contrast. Like, so something really good to be good, it needs to be contrasted with something really bad.
Yeah.
Something really strong is only strong when it's in contrast something weak. And it's about finding that you're okay. You need to find the balance in everything that you do. and be okay whenever you're low, because it only gets better later, because that is higher, that is better. But
Sure.
then depending where you are, it can be lower, but it's all about knowing that eventually improves. And now everything that you're doing really good, but also gets really hard. And then when you start to get really hard, you know that after you improve, you're gonna get much better than that. But the struggles will remain.
Yeah.
Struggles is constant. I had struggles this morning. It was a nightmare. And
Really?
it just keeps going.
Yeah, no, I mean there's always good times ahead, isn't there? When you're in the rut or in the bad times, or you're just plateauing out, there's always going to be good times ahead. You just got to stay consistent, haven't you, and be disciplined with what you're
Yes.
doing, whatever practice it is.
And
But
sometimes it's good to even change what you're doing.
yeah,
Sometimes it's just showing maybe you need to just change how you do things because your partners already know what you're gonna do.
yeah, very true. Mix it
Sometimes
up.
most of the times is this. Oh, this techniques was working really well, and then lately I'm not able to pull that off. Yeah,
Mm,
because all your training partners already know what's going on.
yeah, need to
Then you
catch
have
them
to
by
just
surprise.
you have to deceive. You have to find creative ways to get the same things, and that's the evolution of jiu-jitsu.
It's funny, isn't it? It's like you could have someone who knows so much more than you in terms of the techniques and be, way more talented or something with things. But there's that side to it, the tactical side, and you know element of surprise thing where if you try something new, they might not be expecting it, and someone who's worse ranked or less experienced could actually catch someone out, and it could always happen, couldn't it? If you try something new and you experiment with different things and there you go. One day it might just happen.
Exactly. And then I think the final thing, Lou, is about this to complete the real thing.
Mm,
It's about manage the ego because the ego is the thing that holds you back. Your fear of losing, fear of tapping out, fear of do badly, how you handle when you're at your worst. Prove yourself that you're not good enough against this particular round. It's like these fears, they are playing with you all the time.
yeah.
And if you have this elevated ego, and then it puts you off. You struggle to put yourself in a position where you might be in a bad spot, and then your mind plays games with you. And
Absolutely.
and then when you know this, you just detach yourself from any negative ego thoughts and realize your self-worth is not on your ability to submit someone. Your self-worth is on how you handle yourself when you're up and on your low. This is who you are. So if you don't know how to handle yourself at your worst, you're not handling yourself well. So then
Mm,
your ego is sore, you know.
sure,
But the
sure.
ego is so relevant because the ego is what makes you want to stand and do good and prove yourself.
Mm,
But I never said that ego is not necessary. It just needs to be managed. Your worth is not when you tapping out, it's not making you bad. Tapping out means that you're learning, and you're exploring and you're exposing yourself to get to a point where you get that far in the game. And then
mm,
every time you learn from a submission, you improve, and
absolutely.
but if you never experience submissions, you've never been tested properly. And if you're not testing yourself properly, that means you're not evolving. If you're not evolving, then you're not motivated and you're staying behind your ego.
Yeah. I mean, we only learn from our failures, don't we, at the end of the day? I mean, it's,
Yes.
it's it's just a case of every tap, every time, they get you with something, you're just building up that mental map, aren't you, of everything that's going on. You're learning what doesn't work, what not to do, and what they're going to get you with. And then it's like every failure, and there's going to be a ton of them going through this journey. But every, submission that gets put on you, you're just learning a bit more about it. And the next time you can work to kind of evolve around that and, try something slightly different and then try and avoid the same situation happening again. I think, obviously it's no good if you're stagnant and, you're falling for the same thing every time. But I tell you what, it's so healthy to have these situations where you can just grow and learn and go through the failure and then find that success after, a certain amount of time. It's fantastic.
Yeah, and that's why the ego management is humbling.
Mm,
And then I feel like sometimes it needs to be more of that. That conversation needs to be wider because we can see people developing themselves in the competition side of things, especially if you look at the competitors.
yeah.
And you can either be competitors that are extremely arrogant and competitors that are really humble. They both have main egos, but how they communicate and manage their egos are very different.
Mm.
And I feel like, we as sportsmen, athletes, we have responsibilities. If you liked it or if you don't. And you can either be an influencer to the positive side, or you can be a negative influencer. And nowadays, I feel like, we can call it old-fashioned values a little bit looked down at. But there are the old-fashioned values. They are the ones that keep families, keep things strong and relationships.
Sure.
And I feel like more if our the top athletes of our sports and in many other sports would take that responsibility to create a positive inspiration, by sharing more about it. Because what really that's happening with somebody with a lot of arrogance, it's a lack of confidence and a complex that's built in trying to prove itself. And the more you're happy with who you are and you're confident with who you are, the less you have to, scream about how good you are. And this is for me. It don't get confused, but there are some players that they feel like they need to talk and they need to create that attention to their career, so they somehow can elevate themselves. Sometimes I feel like the media today craves those kind of hostilities and this kind of mentality. So because of the society today are pushing and putting them on relevance, people with a high level of ego and arrogance, you're creating a generation of super arrogant and egotistic people.
Mm.
And now we have like the new generation of athletes inspiring a new generation of egotistic and with the kind of mindset that is not very positive. And it's funny because they are only going to notice this later when they're no longer able to.
Sure.
And that's where it's sad, because they're inspiring at their best. They leave people in with inspirations that they're not in the same, they're not talking about the same wavelength there. So inspire generation think that you need to be like this to succeed, but then that kid will go become successful, arrogant, and then life shows, bang, it's not like that, son. You got to be like that. And then life molds you in a way. It's tendency to mold you in a more humble way. But that's, you just use this kind of approach, inspire people to make that mistake again and again.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So I don't know if I made myself clear there, but my point of the whole story is our leaders should be inspiring for positive. Manage the ego. And humility is there for a reason, because it's more pleasant. But then media attention goes to the arrogance. I hope things need to reverse, but maybe it's just is my opinion, just basically. Maybe I'm old-fashioned, I don't know.
No, fully understood and totally agree with that for sure. No, you're 100% right there. And yeah, the people who do have the following and the attention on them, they do need to portray the right message, and they need to inspire the new generations coming through. I mean, there's going to be a lot of new people coming into the sport, and we want people to be honourable and respectful, and have the correct core values. Anyway, so to move on then to question number 3, what are some of your top tips for improving at Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu outside of the dojo? And what could and should people be doing when they're just at home, for example? Are there any top books or things to be doing? Any advice?
That's a great one. I think one thing for sure, when I look at what people need to do to improve outside the mats, and I always relate to jiu-jitsu as a sport-specific event. The better you do, more you do jiu-jitsu, the better you get at jiu-jitsu. But there are things that can be done for longevity in jiu-jitsu, which making sure that you're getting a really good core and stability, that your glutes are firing up properly, that your body is strong enough to sustain the impact and the stresses of jiu-jitsu, so you can continue to train just for a long time, and your body can handle the pressures and stay healthy for longer. I think this is a good thought. Keep trainings on the sideline of jiu-jitsu to maintain stable. But that I say this for everything. Stability, core stability, and mobility are critical for living. And I think everybody should be looking to do something like that. And then you're looking to maximize training for results, right? And then you're talking about somebody who wants to train for max performance, and they are still on a journey of jiu-jitsu competition. That is two different. There's many different mentalities that you can look at it. But if you look at as a competitor, somebody who really want to push themselves in jiu-jitsu, they want to be the best they can be there. I think there will be times in their lives they need to change and shift amount of efforts outside. As I said, continuous core and stability training to make sure everything's stable, but you're always pushing your training. Your volume is more on jiu-jitsu training. But then because you need to learn more, you need to do a lot more jiu-jitsu, learn techniques, you have to drill, have to build yourself to a particular standard. So your early stages all the way to a pretty decent level black belt, you should be really focused on that. But then once you already have a really good game, you're really well studied, you're doing your homework, you already have good control of your skills, how about this? It's all about your ability to implement your thoughts. So you might have great thoughts in your mind and your game, but if your body is not responding quick and dynamically enough, you might not get that position done. So then the more endurance, the more explosion, the more resilience you have in your body, the better you implement your thoughts. So it gets to a moment where you need to do a lot more strength and conditioning, a lot more, physical pressure, so you can sustain and implement your thoughts, because competitions, it's about a timeline. And then sometimes you need to be able to respond a bit more forceful, a little bit more chilled. You need to strategy a bit better. But whenever the opportunities appears, you got to fire super fast and dynamically, right?
Yeah.
And so your body needs to back it up. So if that made sense, because jiu-jitsu has a tendency, the more you train jiu-jitsu, the better you are at jiu-jitsu, more efficient you are and less physical you are on the mats. If less physical you are, that means your body gets less conditioned. That is it's a trajectory. You're going more jiu-jitsu, less physical you use. So you need to make sure that you stress your body physically so you meet in the middle, physical and technical. So you be at the best you can be. I noticed this especially when a professor trains with the students. If a professor trains with the students all the time, the students get better, they get all the stress, all the physical implementation, they get the energy, and the students improve. But the professor is not improving in the same rate. And that's where the professors have to slow it down, have to mile down. And if you get a professor who trains only with the students and then you put them to train with other athletes, it's a huge gap, because the professor is training a lot of the students and more relaxed and more flowy. And when the black belt competitor is really super dynamic and pressureful. So that shows how important it is that we focus on technique and training. But when you want to improve performance, you can go, right, I got to do physical conditioning so I really can be good. So strength conditioning to high level standard, it's a great addition when you already have great skills in jiu-jitsu. And if you want to do jiu-jitsu, be better at jiu-jitsu and build up to that standard, do a lot of jiu-jitsu and work with your body to maintain and handle the stress of training. And you will see that type of training is different for that than it is for high performance.
Absolutely. And I mean, jiu-jitsu it's no quick fix, is it? You can't just it's a long journey over many years, and you need the body to be firing in 6, 7, 8, 10 years, not just right now. So the stretching as well, obviously hugely important, all the prehab, taking control of physio
and those things you can do at home.
Yeah,
I did it at home on pandemic, Luis. During the pandemic lockdown, I was doing home workout, and it was all about core stability and elastic bands, and I felt a great condition with my condition.
There you go.
I think is all about focus on that kind of training. It can be done in the gym, it can be done with a personal training, it can be done. That's what I used. I did mine. Like my team really gave me a great training through the whole process. I have an app, I access everything, I can share the information after, but there's somebody who looked after me a lot, because I just looked at the videos. I share videos back and they coordinate everything, they give me a new program. Sure. And I was at home and I felt like super well conditioned. I was in great shape.
There you go. This man knows, the world champion. Unbelievable. Say again?
With no equipment, just elastic bands and a chair.
There you go. That's all you need. And yeah, I mean, I know from the tennis circuit, all you need really is a tennis ball just to get rid of most problems that are cropping up. Just lay on it and just loosen those muscles up and stuff. And just take control of your body early on and just eliminate these problems before they get worse, and just take the time off. Like I said, it's a long trip over many a year. Right. So, for my fourth and final question now, then, I've noticed in some of the Gracie Barra group chats and in general, I've seen some people asking questions like, "Am I too old for jiu-jitsu?" So, my question is, if you could be heard by everyone out there who wants to learn jiu-jitsu but feel they are too old, or people who are just self-conscious, or people who aren't as physically fit or strong, what would you tell these people to help them pull the trigger and have a go? Jiu-jitsu is for everyone.
That's such a good question, Luis. You may bring some fine questions. I think those are very important ones because we are breaking the stigma of training jiu-jitsu. And jiu-jitsu is not for athletes only. Jiu-jitsu is for everyone.
Mm,
And because people make references to their own experiences, they imagine what jiu-jitsu is through their own judgment. Maybe something they saw online, maybe they saw a really crazy match online, super fire, somebody getting hurt, or they see their neighbors doing it, they're super fit, and they don't feel like they are part of that bracket, or they see a lot of young people doing it. Maybe it's not for me. I don't think I can handle my knees. Are not the same. Of course, we're not the same as we get older, but if you never gonna give it a go or start, you're never gonna feel how it is. And I think it doesn't matter who you are, what level of skill, a level of strength, body type. If you find a school that are inclusive, that's one for me is very important. It's still good, do a good research to see if that school is inclusive, that's welcoming, that is taking care of you, that it gives you the chance to learn from the fundamentals of jiu-jitsu. They can be introduced to jiu-jitsu on your own pace.
mm,
And I think that is a very important, that you don't feel like you need to be any different to be that. I think this is what we're trying to do this in our Gracie Barra schools. We really treat each student, as they would be a black belt. It doesn't matter. That we treat people equally, and we make sure that they're getting a great experience on the mats, making sure they improve through their own efforts and potential.
mm.
And training will be always adjusted, and you will be able to always have the experience. And do never stop yourself if you're older or weaker or slightly overweight or really overweight. Doesn't matter your body style.
Mm.
Matters that you need to get started, and you never need to be fit to start, because fitness is sport specific. I see people with a really great conditioning in other sports, but when it comes to jiu-jitsu, they get tired too very fast, because you need to really, get conditioned for jiu-jitsu. And that's it. You're not entering just as a martial art fighting team. You're entering a lifestyle that are continuous. Then it's inclusive, and you will be motivated by your coaches, by the staff members, by the training partners, and you will be part of a community. And it's great to socialize. It's great to be part of a community that you feel included. I
Yeah.
think, don't hesitate. Just go out there and have the experience first before you make a judgment, and then take from there.
Brilliant. Perfect answer. Right. Just before we wrap it up, I do want to ask one more little question. But mostly my question actually, just from my own experience. What are some really good pre-jiu-jitsu snacks or anything to eat before you go and, go and roll? For me, I've had meals before jiu-jitsu and I've felt, really awful on the mats actually, quite sick and stuff. And there's been times as well where I've, gone to roll and I actually haven't eaten much before because I wanted to avoid feeling like that, but I've been really out of energy. So I was wondering, world champion, perfect person to ask, what were some of your go-tos and stuff before your matches, and what was your timing with it all?
Yeah, like for example, I think everybody responds different to food.
Mm,
And I think there's about try and error. Give it a try, try a few different types of food. I never really like smoothies, things that are soft in my stomach before training. I always make sure that I eat like roughly around 2 hours before my session if I'm
okay.
gonna eat. And I did eat meals that are giving enough nutrients. So I have the right amount of fats, the right amount of protein, and the slow release carbohydrates. So I don't feel starchy and like really heavy.
Mm,
And when I train in the morning, because a lot of my heavier sessions happen in the morning, I don't eat anything. I'm fasting at that moment. I just drink water and a cup, and I put like a something to alkaline my system, and then I drink a cup of coffee, and then I'm ready to go. And I only eat around 3 o'clock in the afternoon or 5, and I don't even feel hungry. because when I go train and stress my body, I'm using my, a different energy system, really feeling like my body can sustain with my fats, and the fats are more long lasting. And I feel like this is really giving me a good option. But then because I was training a lot more as a competitor, so I was in a different habit. Man, this is what I do today. I don't eat, but I used to eat before training in the morning, like eggs. It has to be like a portion of eggs. I would have like some avocados, even a couple of like slices of bacon, but no bread. That would be my breakfast. Not every day the bacon, but the bacon would be like on and off. And that would be like some nuts. I replace the fats with something, I just keep bringing some fats and protein, and I eat no carbs in the morning. And then I would go not eat a lot either, just small portions of, an hour and a half maximum before the training. And then after training in the morning, I would be like starving, feeling like I need a mountain. And then I would go the good proteins, the slow release carbohydrates. And then I would be, not very starchy because I don't want to feel like that energy low. So then I would build up with good habits of food. Then have my coffee again to keep myself teaching afternoon classes. and off I went like this. So this is what I used to do. But when I did the best type of eating, I did like a test. I did a test on my blood test for intolerance. So I check a lot of different elements, and then I stopped eating what my body felt the best with, and that's basically the best time I've ever had. Best performances, best physical condition, best recovery, when I just ate what I could.
Excellent. Notes have been taken. And so that is our 4 questions done for today, Victor. Well, 4 and a bit. And before we wrap it up, it is time for what I like to call the shameless plug. So, Victor, feel free to take a minute and promote anything that you're working on, want people to take a look at, or just something that you believe in.
Man, I basically, this is a moment where I say, I'd like to just thank everybody around me, that's the informed performance, which is the team that helped me through competition through the years. I'm very grateful for Gracie Barra to provide this incredible platform for me to be able to be the best I can as a competitor, as a professor, as a leader, as a school owner. I have learned so much with the education system that Gracie Barra provides, the certification, the ICP. Every instructor in Gracie Barra goes through a certification program, which really helps them, us educate ourselves to become better teachers. I've learned, many things by looking at jiu-jitsu in a very different way, with leadership and mentalities, reading books and educating myself. So I have a lot to thank with my mentors as well. Carlos Gracie Junior has been a great mentor to me, and helped me understand the journey of a jiu-jitsu athlete or jiu-jitsu teacher, leader, the different stages of jiu-jitsu, the beginning, where you mature as a competitor, what practitioner, and what jiu-jitsu comes later, as a leader, school owner, professor, somebody who helps the organization. It really helped me fulfill myself in jiu-jitsu. I have Professor Flavio Almeida, who's been a great mentor to me because he lives a similar life to me in the United States, dealing with the similar amount of things that I have to deal with. So it's been somebody who also strongly on the mats, really super consistent, and he inspires me as a whole. My brother has been somebody who also inspired me so much. As a competitor, he pushed me and he helped me really fall in love with the journey of jiu-jitsu, and helped me as a competitor. And it's just, I have a lot to thank the people. I am today who I am because of the people around me, and all the students who believed in me, all the coaches and staffs that I have in the companies that I run, and we wouldn't be the same without them. So a big shout for everybody who have ever supported me in my journey, and that's it. This is basically a little bit of a thank for everyone, and so I'm good to go.
Awesome. Great stuff. Victor, thank you so much for joining me today for the Talk4 podcast. This has been an absolute pleasure having you on.
Amazing. Thank you, Luis. Appreciate that, my brother. Take it easy.
Anytime.
Bye.
Right. Thank you guys for listening. This has been episode 29. And if you'd like to listen to our past episodes, go and have a look at our channel. And if you'd like to listen in for our future ones, make sure to hit that subscribe button and spread some love by leaving a like and a comment. Signing off for now.